It was around 9 a.m. on a boring Friday morning when my younger sister burst into my room. I was supposed to be searching for jobs online but had gotten frustrated by the lack of appealing jobs being advertised. I had just turned 19 years old and wanted to do something fun and enjoyable, but nothing was catching my eye. I had eventually gotten bored and had started playing video games instead. I was about to begin my fourth round of Fortnite when my 17-year-old sister, Sarah, rushed into my room. In a panic, I tried to change my screen back to the job search website, but it was too late. "Alex, aren't you supposed to be looking for jobs?" said my sister. I sighed before speaking back. "Sarah, why are you even in my room? I told you not to disturb me. What do you want?" It didn't take long for Sarah to respond. "I want to borrow your body for today and tomorrow. Me and my friends want to head up to Reno for the night, but none of us can drive, so if I go as you, I can drive us all there." I looked at my sister, confused for a second before realizing what she was asking. Our dad, John, is the head of a secret government-funded project that is developing a machine that allows two people to swap bodies with one another. They already have several working prototypes, one of which my dad smuggled home a few months ago. My dad had let me and my sister try it out a few times. My sister loved being in my body because she could drive my car with my license. Even though I didn't like her driving my car, she managed to convince my parents it was okay. She always seemed to get what she wanted from them. She had failed her test a few months ago for not being able to parallel park. Apart from that, I guess she was a pretty decent driver, so I put up with it. Unlike my sister, I hated body swapping. It was never a fun experience, especially after the last time we did it. My sister tricked me into swapping while she was on her period. After we swapped, she quickly left the house, leaving me in pain, unsure of what to do. After recovering from the shock of her question, I quickly gave her my answer. "Sarah, there is no way I'm going to body swap with you. You know how much I hate swapping, especially with you." Sarah looked at me and was about to respond, but I cut her off. "We wouldn't be able to swap anyway because Dad said he took the machine back to the lab," I said. It didn't take long for Sarah to respond. "First off, Dad lied when he said he took the machine back to his lab. I saw him hide it and I know where it is. Second off, I knew you would say no to me, and that's why me and my friends gathered together $500 to give to you if you agree," Sarah said smugly. I looked at her for a second, considering her offer. I was in desperate need of the money. I knew my parents wouldn't allow me to live with them for much longer. Despite all this, I didn't think her offer was worth it. "Sarah, I'm still not going to do it. Can you leave my room?" My sister didn't look as disappointed as I expected her to be. A few seconds later, she started speaking again. "I know that the only reason Mom and Dad haven't kicked you out yet is because you say you're looking for a job. If you don't agree to this, I'll tell them that you're actually using your time to play video games." She once again looked at me smugly, and this time, I didn't have anything to say back. I knew that she was completely right, and if she told my parents that I was in fact playing video games, I would get kicked out. I didn't have anywhere to go. If I did get kicked out, I would be homeless. Her blackmail against me was unfortunately working. I had no choice but to agree to swap bodies. I eventually responded to her, "Fine, Sarah, you win, I'll do it." Sarah looked ecstatic. I had never seen her so happy. "Great. Come to the living room in around 5 minutes and we can do the swap," said Sarah. She then skipped out of my room. Once she had left, I looked at the ground, knowing my weekend, which I was originally looking forward to, was going to be spent in my younger sister's body. I stayed seated for a few minutes thinking about what I'd agreed to do when I heard Sarah call to me from the living room. "Come on, Alex. Everything is set up. Let's do this." I slowly got up from my chair and walked into the living room where I saw the machine on the coffee table with Sarah sitting next to it. "All right, what do I have to do again?" I said, looking at the machine. "All you have to do is scan your fingerprint here next to mine. Once you've done that, I'll press the button and the switch will begin," Sarah said cheerfully. Without saying anything, I knelt down and scanned my fingerprint on the machine's screen. Sarah then instantly pressed the start button. Within seconds, my entire body was tingling. The feeling made me think of the last time we did this. I was not looking forward to what was about to happen. A few seconds later, I started feeling nauseous and my vision blurred. I moved over and sat on one of the room's sofas. I looked around but was not able to see much. A few moments later, the machine made a loud beeping noise. My vision slowly started to return to normal. As my vision improved, I looked down at my new body and groaned. Even though my vision was still blurred, I could make out the 2 large mounds on my chest. My previously strong and athletic body had been replaced with my sister's small but curvy body. I looked up at my sister, who had already begun familiarizing herself with her new muscles. She seemed to be enjoying herself. I forgot how cool it was being a guy. I'm so big and strong now, said Sarah using my voice. Well, at least someone is enjoying themselves, I quietly said to myself, hating my new high-pitched voice. Don't worry, Sarah, being a girl is fun too. Before I go, I'll teach you the basics, Sarah said to me from my own body. Can you at least call me Alex? Being called Sarah will make this even worse than it already is, I muttered to my sibling. Sarah was quick to respond. No, Sarah. When I'm gone, you will be acting as me. You need to get used to being called Sarah. From now on in the story, Alex, who is now Sarah, will be referred to as Sarah. Sarah, who is now Alex, will also now be referred to by Alex anyway. Back to the story. Can you hurry up and show me the girl basics so I can go back to my video games? I asked, looking at my new brother who was still distracted looking at himself. I guess so. Let's go check out your new room, Alex said back to me. He began walking to his old room, signaling me to follow. I began to stand up for the first time since the swap. As I got up, I nearly fell forward into the table. I let out a little scream as it happened, causing Alex to turn around. Alex began to laugh after he realized what had happened. Not used to having a heavy chest, are you? He said back to me as I began to stand up again. I scowled at him from across the room as he started walking again. I slowly followed him, making sure I wouldn't fall again. Walking into the room I would spend the next day in was not fun. It was as girly as a room could get. Pink wallpaper, posters of guys, and an enormous closet and mirror filled to the top with dresses, skirts, and lingerie. I couldn't help but frown as I looked around at everything. I'll start by teaching you how to dress like I would. Strip down to your bra and panties, and I'll teach you how it all works, Alex said to me. I looked at him for a second, wanting to argue, but I realized there was no point. I began undressing. As I removed my t-shirt and sweatpants, I properly saw my new body for the first time. Adding to my annoyance, I could tell that my sister's chest and hips had grown since the last time we swapped. I hated being so curvy. Alex could tell I was uncomfortable. He didn't seem to care, though. I think he was enjoying watching me struggle. Over the next half an hour, Alex taught me as much as he could about female clothes. I learned how to style all the different clothes and what clothes went well with each other. At the end, Alex gave me an outfit to wear, telling me I had to put it on without his help. He then left the room, closing the door behind him. I started looking through the clothes I had been given. A short skirt, a tight shirt, some stockings, and a pair of high heels. It all looked so uncomfortable, especially the heels. I called out to Alex to complain. Alex, how on earth do you expect me to wear these heels? They're so tall. A few seconds later, he called back. Just try your best. If you really can't manage them, I'll give you something easier. I sighed to myself and decided to just put the clothes on. Once Alex leaves, I'll change into something comfier, I thought to myself. I started with the skirt, pulling it up my now hairless legs. I then moved on to the shirt, but really struggled as I attempted to put it on. It was very tight and didn't want to fit around my large chest. Eventually, I was able to get it on, though. I then moved on to the stockings, remembering what Alex had taught me about putting stockings on. I slowly rolled them up my legs until they were smoothly on my skin. I was then ready for the high heels. I put them onto my feet and tightened the straps. Once they were on, I slowly pulled myself onto my feet until I was standing. I then slowly started taking my first steps. While I was wobbly at first, I quickly got the hang of it. Well, that was easier than I thought it would be, I muttered under my breath. Once I was satisfied I could walk in the heels, I went to open the door to let Alex see what I looked like. When Alex first saw me, he gasped at me. Wow, Sarah, you look incredible. I didn't know my body was that good looking. Alex made me do a few spins admiring me. Looking at my own body is so cool, I didn't know I was that good looking. I wasn't really too sure what to say. After Alex spent a few minutes looking at me, it got a bit awkward. To break the silence, I decided to ask him when he was leaving. "I'll be heading off in around an hour. I've already packed some of your things to take with me for the night." "Before I head off, I will have to give you some more tips, though," Alex told me. "There's more to being a girl than looking feminine," Alex continued. Over the next hour, Alex taught me some important techniques that'll help me not get caught. I learned how to apply some basic makeup that matched Alex's style. Alex also taught me how to talk and sound more like a teenage girl. Eventually, Alex came to me and said he was leaving. "All right, little sis, I'm heading off now. Have a good time in my sexy body." He then winked and left the house, closing the door behind himself. He didn't even allow time for me to say goodbye. Now that I was all alone, I decided I had to change out of the uncomfortable outfit Alex had made me wear. I walked back to my new room and quickly took off the heels. I then started looking through the closet for something cozy. I eventually found a small zip-up sweater with some matching sweatpants that looked like it had been made out of a nice material, while I hated the bright pink color. I still removed the skirt and tight shirt and quickly put the new clothes on. I instantly felt much better. I didn't even look bad either. Looking in the mirror, I still looked pretty attractive. I then decided it was time to do what I was originally planning on spending my day doing. I walked towards my old room to play some video games, but was stopped when my door wouldn't open. I then realized what had happened. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me. Alex locked my own door using my own key. I can't even use my own computer," I said angrily. I now had no choice but to look for something else to do. I walked back into the room I would spend the night in and laid down on the bright pink bed. I picked up my phone and instantly knew something was off. The wallpaper was completely different and my password didn't work. After spending some time looking at it, I eventually realized what was wrong. Alex had switched our phones. It took me a while to realize, as we both have the same model of phone and neither of us had a case. I eventually realized that because I was now my sister, I could use the Face ID for the phone. I unlocked the phone and started looking through some of the social media my sister used. Out of boredom, I started looking through her DMs and discovered that she had been DMing some of my friends. From what I could see, some of my friends were trying to go on dates with my sister. After that discovery, I got a bit uncomfortable and put my phone down. My day couldn't get any worse. I was lost on things to do. All the things I would normally spend my time doing were no longer accessible. I just laid there thinking of something to do to keep me entertained. After 15 or so minutes with no ideas, I was surprised when all of a sudden my phone started ringing. I looked over at my phone and saw that the person calling me was Ella, one of Sarah's friends. She was a 5'8" brunette with an incredibly attractive, curvy body. While I personally didn't know her very well, I did have a massive crush on her. She was one of the most attractive girls at my school before I left. She was still in school with my sister finishing her last year. When I realized it was Ella who was calling, I panicked. I wasn't sure if I should even answer. A few moments of thought passed, and I decided I would answer. I knew Ella would have never paid me any attention when I was myself, so this was my one opportunity to talk to her. I brought the phone up to my ear and listened as she started to talk. "Hey, Sarah, I was wondering if you wanted to come round to my place and do some swimming. It's way too hot not to just sit around." The second I heard her invite me to her house, I knew I had to accept. Putting on my best impression of my little sister, I said my response. "I would love to. When do you want me to come over?" I listened anxiously, waiting for Ella to respond. "You can come now if you would like. I have nothing else to do." Ella spoke back. "Sounds good. I'll be there in 10 minutes, I responded. I then hung up the call and instantly started thinking about what I had just agreed to. Why did I just agree to that? It's going to be hard pretending to act like my sister around her, I thought to myself. I didn't have much time to think about it, though. I had told Ella I would be at her house in 10 minutes, and it was at least a 5-minute walk to get there. I stood up and started looking for a bag to bring some things in. I quickly found the handbag my sister loved using in the corner of the room. I grabbed some things I thought my sister would bring to a friend's house. Sunscreen, a water bottle, and Alex's purse, which had surprisingly been left behind. I then started looking in the closet for something I could swim in. I was able to find a small bikini that I knew my sister loved wearing. I myself wasn't looking forward to wearing it, but knew that if I wanted Ella to believe I was really Sarah, I would have to do everything Sarah would normally do. After looking at myself in the mirror and checking that I had everything, I left my house and began walking the short distance to Ella's house. As I expected, it took me around 5 minutes to get there. I took in a deep breath and then knocked on Ella's front door. Seconds later, she opened the door. "Hi, Sarah. I'm surprised you actually showed up on time for once. You're usually super late," Ella said to me. "Well, I had nothing else to do, so I figured I'd come quicker," I said, putting on the best impression of my sister I could. Ella didn't seem to notice how nervous I was. She invited me into her house, and I followed as she walked up to her room. I had never been in Ella's house and was surprised by how nice it was. "I hope you remembered to bring your bikini this time," Ella said back to me as we walked into her room. "Don't worry, I remembered it this time," I said back, trying to giggle a little. I put my bag down on Ella's bed to get out the bikini I had brought as I noticed that Ella had already started undressing. Starting with my sweater, I too began to undress. Once I got to the bra, I realized that this was going to be my first time taking it off since me and Alex had swapped. I unclipped the clasp at the back and pulled it off, properly seeing the 2 mounds on my chest for the first time. As I was looking at myself, Ella started speaking, catching me off guard. "Wow, you've gotten quite a bit bigger up there," Ella said to me, giggling. "Yup. I wonder if this bikini will even fit," I said, still looking down. "If you need to borrow a bigger one, I'm happy to lend you one," Ella said to me, prompting me to look up at her. I was surprised to see she was completely undressed, which caught me off guard. After years of imagining what Ella would look like undressed, I finally got to see it. I tried my best to pretend it wasn't a big deal, though, as I accepted Ella's offer for a bigger bikini. A few minutes later, myself and Ella were in our bikinis. I followed Ella as she walked out of her room towards her garden and pool. I secretly spent my time behind her looking at Ella's butt. Despite my best efforts, I feel like she could tell I was looking at her. I was trying my hardest not to act weird around Ella, which was hard considering how attracted I was to her. Once we reached the pool, we both jumped in and spent some time swimming together. We quickly got bored of that, though, and began gossiping, sitting on the side of the pool. Admittedly, Ella was doing most of the gossiping. I was just agreeing with the stuff she said and adding things when I thought I could. It worked, though. Ella didn't seem to notice that I didn't know what she was talking about. I hate to admit it, but I was starting to enjoy today. Since Ella had called me, my day had gotten much, much better. She was so much fun to spend time with. I just wish I could do it as myself. I decided that when I became myself again, I would message her asking to go out sometime. Maybe if I'm lucky, we will start dating. But for now, sitting with her while in my sister's body was a decent compromise.